Hi, hello. I am Andrea Duhe, and I am a New Orleans tarot card reader. Today I want to talk about depression and tarot, depression through the eyes of tarot. I also want to start off by saying that I am not a licensed medical professional. All the things that I am saying here today are based on my own experiences, experience of people that I know and love, experience of people around me, and also my interpretation of the tarot. The reason I'm sharing, and it is going to get very personal with my own, is to put this out there in hopefully a way that might relate or help somebody just through my own experiences. So please take it for that. I'm actually a very strong advocate of going to somebody to get help, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're in my home. Welcome. And so we are going to get very personal, so welcome to my home and welcome to my depression. One thing I also want to talk about is the fact that it is a very individualized. Depression can take many forms for many different reasons. There could be like the fact that we just have a chemical imbalance. It could be trauma that we can't get over or a problem we cannot solve. It could be a negative self-image. It could be all of these things or a combination of any. So it is something that we battle with in our way and deal with it in life. So in some shape or form, someone's always gotten depressed. Usually I would imagine that people in their life will experience depression at some point. But what we're talking about today is when it takes over. For me, myself, it is very much a combination of a few of those things. It's chemical and the way that I'm wired, combined with circumstances and problems that often trigger it. It could be a problem that I can't solve, and then it goes places, and it also has roots in trauma as well. So there's a rich tapestry there, but whatever your case is, I'm telling you right now that it is significant. It isn't, you are, regardless of how you might tell yourself it's not okay, it is okay to have this. What we do about it is going to define in how much it rules our life, right? And what I'm hoping to do here too is depression can be a very isolating experience. So regardless of whether you relate to the things I have to say, what I'm hoping to have here is at least a common thread to where you don't have to feel so alone. And I'm hoping that this can be helpful to somebody out there or many people out there, but let's see what happens whenever we go into this. Another thing to bring up real quick is I was taught a specific way, and I also melded that with who I am and my interpretation of things. I do feel like I have a structured way of interpreting things that follows a recipe, but every reader reads differently, and I've heard people read the cards differently that doesn't actually misrepresent them, but it is a different interpretation that I have. So also keep that in mind as well while listening to this video. Okay, let's go into it. We're going to start by illustrating depression through the moon card. Okay, let me get really close so you can see this. Okay, it's the underworld. It's being stuck in the underworld. For what I read that as too is being, there's the initial pain, there's the initial catalyst of this, but then where we take it with our emotions and where it defines on how stuck we are in the muck, stuck in it. So what I mean by that is there's the pain and then there's wearing the pain. This is when you feel engulfed, like waves crash over you of pain, and it's really hard to see out. It's really hard to know there is an out. And it's really hard to feel there's ever going to be anything different when you're going through it. For me, mine goes through phases. Basically, it's like this. It's ever present in the background, and so in a way I'm never fully present because it is there rattling off in the background, or just being there, absorbing at least some of my joy or some of my presence. Now, whenever it comes over me and comes to the forefront, is usually I have something that sometimes it's for no reason at all, and it just shows up and I have it and I'm in it. Other times there's a problem that triggers old trauma, or there's just a problem that, like I said before, that like is something that's causing me pain, and even if it isn't connected or new trauma. And I'm not solving it, I'm not getting past it, I'm not thinking about it in any kind of constructive way, I am just in it and drowning in it and just there. And I kind of am at the mercy of it. We're going to talk about different ways we feed depression in a minute and also ways out. But before, let's just start talking about it the way it comes. Another one of my friends identified their depression as, and this is something different than I feel, but it definitely sounds like something that I think a lot of people can relate to in the way that they wear their depression. My friend told me it's like constantly treading water with weights all the time. And there's certain days where you're stronger and you feel like you can do it, and there's other days where you're just so tired you want to give up. It's painful. No matter what level of it being the problem and then what we put to the problem, it doesn't make it any less of a struggle or any less real. We're going to go into that a little bit more about forgiving ourselves for having the problem in the first place a little bit later. But this is the thing I want to say at first. For the person going through depression, it's as real as anything. It's not, just think about it another way, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. That's not going to happen. Matter of fact, let's talk about that for a second, shall we? The way we feed our depression. There's something that I want everyone who does not suffer from depression to stop saying, because it makes me want to burn down a person's house when they tell me, go for a walk, go outside, it's just a sunshiny day, when you're trying to hide from everything, and especially the sun. If a peak of sun comes in through the window, I go shh and scurry into a dark corner. I'm hiding. I don't want to be exposed. I don't want to be in the sun. I don't want to be seen. Now, here's the thing. As I was talking about, we feed depression. Ironically, what it demands is actually what it keeps it fed. Going out in the sunshine and vitamin D actually helps. Theoretically, anyway. We tend to eat things that we shouldn't eat and indulge and overeat, or we lose our appetite, so we're not getting the nutrients we need as well, so our body feels like crap too. And so it's like a big web we're weaving of keeping it going. So that also brings me back to the moon card. As we are in the underworld, and we don't belong there, the underworld continues to try to make it more unpleasant and more uncomfortable for us to stay. But when you're suffering from depression, it makes you feel like you need to stay. You can't even get out. The harder it gets, the harder it is. So there's a couple ways, and bring it back to the tarot, that we feed it. I'm going to talk about another way. Nine of Swords. Let's see if we can see it says right there, cruelty. And it's the Nine of Swords. It doesn't mean cruelty in the way that we are cruel to other people. It's self-cruelty. It's turning those swords inward. We have put these swords in our own back. So this is negative inner monologue. A lot of hate on yourself. A lot of self-criticism, harshness. Also, like, not allowing yourself to have depression, like feeling like you're a failure for having this problem in the first place. All kinds of things that we tell ourselves, really cruel things that like we would never even think about for the most part, of telling somebody else these kind of things. But yet, somehow, it's okay to do it to yourself. It also shows like the disregard for self, if you're able to be so mean. Now, for me, in my experience with this, you don't always have control over this. A lot of times it rambles off whether you are putting that there or whether it's just going there. So that leads me to the next thing, escapism. Trying to keep depression at bay by not dealing, by avoiding escapism, pushing it to the side. It's not the best way. Actually, it's the worst way. It's almost better to be in it than to try to avoid it, only because it can become a lifestyle of avoidance. So what that means here is what we have here. Can you see? This is 7 of Cups, debauch. If you look at how muddy the fountain is. So if we're avoiding the problem, think about what happens to a fountain with neglect. The water gets murky, it gets muddy, it gets gross, and it stops up the fountain. It can't flow. It's stuck. So ironically enough, by trying to avoid the problem, we actually glue it to us. It's now kind of controlling us in a way. And what escapism, what I'm talking about there is like over drinking, overeating, oversleeping. Some people shop. Over binge watching TV, over binge drinking, which I said before, but that one's a definite vice for me, or was working on it. Oversleeping, overworking. That's a big one because we're trying to outrun it at that point and just put it to that side. So if we have something in front of us that we keep going, we don't have to pay attention to the thing. Also, simply put, it can just be procrastination. Even if you don't seek out a distraction, it's putting it to the side so you don't have to deal with it. And what ends up happening, it has more control that way because it's just going off in the background. Avoiding it is making it harder and harder to deal with because we eventually have to clean this up if we want to move anywhere. If you escape and don't change, the best case scenario is that you never move anywhere. You just keep spinning your wheels. So, and that's the best case, because typically it anchors you backwards. I like to say, I thought about this the other day, and it's like dulling the best of yourself because you're afraid of the worst of yourself. And that's not moving past it. That's letting it control you. And once again, in all aspects of this, I want to say that the first thing I want to say is it's okay if you do these things. It's just when we want to talk about getting past it and not letting it have this much control, it's acknowledging what you're doing and acknowledging it enough to see it so it's not just something going off in the background. Like it's turning lights on the boogeyman so you can see it instead of it going bump in the night. One thing you also have to be afraid, wrong choice of words. One thing you have to be careful of too is in that negative inner monologue, we can surrender. We can say, it's never going to change. So whatever aspect I can live with. A nihilist point of view where you accept that you're powerless to change it. And that's not true. What that looks like in the tarot here is a 7 of Swords. Futility. It's convincing yourself what's the use, it's never going to change. And in an aspect, you are correct, because if you keep that mind frame, it leaves no room for change. How can you possibly move past that if you won't change that thought? And I get it. What that is like preparing yourself for the worst so that way you feel safe because you're afraid. It's like tightening that gut because you think you're going to get a punch, right? Things can't change unless you actually confront it. Things can't change unless you actually admit they're there, and things can't change unless you feel like you can possibly do it. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Now we're going to talk about dealing with it, and when I talk about dealing with it, I want to talk about first, let's go back over what I just said. First things first, admitting that it's a problem and that you need help. Seems simple, but it's really not for a lot of people. For me, this is my own path. I go to therapy and I do see mental health avenues. I do have medication, and then I also do holistic stuff. I do a combination of everything for me. And I am not on the other side. The reason I am making this video right after I've just gotten out a week's worth of escapism, self-loathing, embracing my depression. But every time it happens, I notice that I get just a little bit better each time. The journey of dealing with it is so much better than the pain of living with it without any control. So, on that note, saying forgive yourself. And then we're going to talk about the Magi right here. So, he's the magician. He's the one that can make things happen, right? Well, in the context of depression, we're going to regard it as tools. So that's part of the Magi's thing. He has tools in his tool belt: life experience, the accessibility to certain things, different tools to make things happen. That's why he's a magician. So what we're talking about here is taking inventory and what's available to you in your current situation. I think first admitting it and forgiving yourself for having it, and forgiving yourself for struggling with it. And also, during the journey, I'm going to tell you now, you are going to fall back into escapism patterns, but it's how you deal with it and how you let yourself come out. You will come out the other side each and every time. And it's how you celebrate how you're able to that's going to keep you getting better and better and better. Okay, friends and family, yes, but that's not where it ends at all. Friends and family, just to let them know that something's up, is good because you're creating yourself a support network. That's nice. You need that. The fact anybody that says I got it, I'm going in a cave and I'm going to do it on my own. No, you don't got it. I'm sorry, boo, you do not have it. It doesn't work like that. At least from what I've seen in my own life and what I've seen in so many others. I don't just deal with depression with my loved ones. I also read tarot cards for a living at Crescent City Conjure, and I see a lot of this. I am one of the conduits that people come to for help. I am one of them. I feel like that's one of many that should happen. I don't feel like I'm the end. I feel like I am help. I'm an aspect of helping. I think that going to any kind of mental health facility that you possibly have within your grasp is a definitely good way. You need to go to somebody who is objective, who knows more about it than you do. Like I said, I feel like everybody in all walks of life can benefit from therapy, no matter where they're at in this world. So when the person tells me I don't need therapy, I immediately think that they need it the most. When you say I got it when we're pertaining to something like this tells me that you absolutely don't got it. Unless you are doing the things to make it right, which is putting yourself back in the driver's seat by going get people help. I said therapy before. There's also holistic healing, which works for some, and I do that as well. There's reaching out to family, like I said before, and then there's medications you can take as well. I understand that is a scary avenue for certain people, and I personally, it's a personal journey. All of it is. Find that it helps me because it gives me more control over it. For the medication I take, it doesn't make me feel any different personality-wise. It doesn't take anything from me. All it does is, and I still battle with all the stuff, it's just gives me more control over it. I have more options to dealing with it. I have another coping skill. I have another coping mechanism. So that's what this is, and I do it alongside therapy. And I also think this, by the way, everybody that is healers as well. I think it's very wise if you are a healer to go to a healer, somebody else that's a healer, or somebody else that's a counselor, or somebody else that is that for you. So your stuff doesn't leak out on other people. That's what I said, everybody can benefit from it. And I feel like a lot of times as healers, we have this facade that we have to have it all together. And I find the more honest you are when you don't have it together, the better healer you are, the more you reach people in a real way. It's okay. Everybody, it's okay not to be together all the time. Who's that? And how can you possibly relate to somebody if you don't struggle? Struggle really shows you who you are. It's in the overcoming the part when you're the weakest that you find out what you're made of. So think about that as you're pursuing this, okay? Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. I can't say it enough. Forgive yourself for having this problem in the first place. The thing that makes it so hard for us even more is if we deny its existence or try to act like it's not okay to have it. Not okay to have it means that it's going to make it worse because it's not okay, and somehow you're failing because you have this problem in the first place, and it just makes it so much more complicated and embedded inside. Forgive yourself. It's okay. It's not your fault. And then I understand everybody doesn't have the same avenues. So it's time to research, okay? So whatever your situation is, whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance, whether you're rich, poor, whatever walk of life you are, do some research to see what is available to you. And also, the first thing you go to isn't the end either. Sometimes if you think about it like dating, not every single thing is going to be a right fit. And even if you're going to do the right thing, like I like therapy, but this therapist doesn't really work for me, but this one does. It's important to try to keep going, but the thing is the try. It's in the try. It's in the try that you get more control over your life. And the thing is no matter how many times you fall down, it's the try. I just went through it. Like last week, I was like, I don't think I'll ever feel anything different, and I did the things. Currently, right now, I'm not drinking for health reasons. I'm getting something fixed, and hopefully, like in the process, one of my vices will be gone in the process. So, but that doesn't mean I just don't rely on other ones too. And forgive yourself for if you fall into that. That's part of the process too. If you can nurture yourself through this, then you're gonna find you're better and better and better each time. You can actually see the progress. I am a million miles away before I started this process, but it's still in the journey. It's still in the journey. And so not everybody was learned how to love themselves early on. That's a process too. And it's not about how many times you fall, it's about you keep going and keep trying through it all. Because that is going to make self-worth in the efforts that you're worth trying for. I'm going to review real quick because that was a lot. First we have the moon, being stuck in the underworld, feeling like we'll never see the light. Definitely not wanting it to come through the window. Feeling that it's all encompassing, that it's over us, that it's washing over, that we're drowning in our pain. Yeah. Ouch. Then there is the stifling and hard self-imposed prison that we put ourselves in. We hold the key to our own prison cell in this one. This is self-cruelty. But a lot of times, like I said, not everybody has control over their inner monologue. I've gained a lot since I started taking my own medication to where I can still I have better choices about controlling it. But it still gets away from me here and there. It's still a process. Just every step of the way. Be gentle. This causes so much more pain. Being so hard on yourself. And hard on yourself for having the problem in the first place. Stop it. Be careful, because avoiding all of this can lead us to escapism, which only muddies up the fountain and makes it so much worse and harder to see through and harder to climb out and harder to clean up, and makes it control our lives. I'm going to say it again. Don't live your life to where you have to dull the best of yourself because you're afraid of the worst. There's futility. Convincing yourself that nothing's going to change, so why even try? let that one go. Princess of Swords. Did I mention this one earlier? We talked about so much. This is weathering the storm. Do know that it's going to get better. Do know that it's going to come out the other side. This is sitting strong on your pillar, knowing that even if you feel weak, that it's not going to last forever. The storm will pass. Okay? Just try to hang in there. And then this is confronting the problem in a way where you start to look around and see what kind of tools are available to you, what kind of tools you have, what kind of coping mechanisms you've already come to the table with, and then go seek outside help. Tools mean also looking for people that have the tools that you need. Finding somebody who knows more than about you, this objective, whether it be a counselor, whether it be something holistic, whether it be whatever it is for you that helps you get some more control and have somebody to talk to that allows this to come out and not just be worn in. I hope that was really helpful. I'm Andrea Duhe, and I'm wishing you good health, happiness, and love.